Hello. Today I'm going to show you how to make some really easy veggie burgers. I've done quite a lot of prep so I can show you all of it together. I'll put the ingredients down below, but just to give you an idea, also I'm making sort of double the mixture just because I have a lot of stuff to use up and you can freeze them, which is great. So the ingredients are, the first thing I'll be doing is to fry off some onion and garlic in some oil in a pan. And then you add in any other veg that needs to be cooked. So I've got mixed peppers here, which are raw. After that, I'll be adding in some mixed beans just from a tin. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So it is, the recipe is 1.5 cups of legumes, which is either beans, lentils or chickpeas. So you can use whichever you want. I just happen to have a tin of beans. I've got chickpeas as well, but these are cut up quite small. So chickpeas are quite big and tend to kind of fall out. The next thing you add is a cup of cooked grains. So I've got here some barley that I cooked yesterday. The reason I'm making double the mixture is because I've got loads of barley to use up. So I'm just going to double everything up pretty much. The next thing is the 2 cups of chopped veg, which, as I said, I've got the mixed peppers there. Half a cup of flavour or texture boost, which is basically, you can use whatever you want. There's herbs, nuts, seeds, sun-dried tomatoes. So I've got some mixed herbs, and I've also got some sun-dried tomatoes, or I might add in some sesame seeds instead. So in fact, I'll probably do that because it's easier today. 3 teaspoons of spices. So what I've done is I've put in probably a teaspoon of chili, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, couple of teaspoons of dried parsley. There's also a bit of, I've got some fresh coriander there, but I've not put that much in because I've used a lot of it elsewhere. So I've got that's probably about 1/8 of a cup. I mean, it's not that much. It's quite a small little cup. And the last thing to add is half a cup of the dry base. So what I've done is I've used my food processor and blended up a roll basically that I was either going to freeze it or use it. So what I've done is I've blended it up into breadcrumbs. I'll use whatever I need for this, and then whatever I don't use I'll put in the freezer and I can use it the next time I'm making them. So just to talk you through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is to obviously cook off the onion and garlic. I've used red onion, any onion's fine. I've used a tube of garlic because I'm lazy. You can use fresh garlic, whatever you want, or lazy garlic is the other thing. So I'm going to cook the onions. I'm going to add in the red peppers, the mixed peppers, cook them. Once they're cooked, I'm going to add everything else in and just sort of mix it all together. And then what you do is you take about 3/4 of the mixture out and you put it into the food processor and you blend it up. Not completely, because then it'll be like kind of mush. But you want to blend it up so that it's easier to shape. Then you'll add it back in with the rest of it. I'll put all that into a bowl and then I'll be trying to make sure I can shape it together into like a burger, obviously. Oh, the other ingredient that I forgot, which obviously everyone knows that I'll add, is cheese. It's not in the recipe, but it certainly doesn't do any harm. So once I do that, I'll check whether it's easy enough to shape them. And if it's not, if it's too dry, then I'll find some kind of wet ingredient that I can add in. So I might keep some of when I put the peppers in, there's quite a lot of liquid in there, so I might keep some of that back and just squeeze them a bit through a sieve or something. Or there's a bit of liquid left in these beans obviously as well. So or if it's if the mixture's too wet, I'll just add in some more breadcrumbs, or add in cheese isn't necessarily going to help, but I'll add in some more breadcrumbs and maybe combine in some cheese, or maybe add in some more seeds. So it's a great recipe because it gives you all these different options. So it's kind of like whatever you've got in the cupboard. Okay, so I'm just going to pause just now and get everything properly ready so I can start cooking. Okay, so I've put my onion and garlic into the frying pan, and I've just put in probably about a couple of teaspoons of oil, maybe a little bit more. So I'm just going to cook that off. What I was going to say was, so I've used a tin of beans there as part of, and obviously you can use beans, chickpeas, lentils. The other thing that I've made these with before is you can buy a bag of mixed veg in, well, any supermarket really, sort of mixed chopped veg, and sometimes you can get it with grains in it like quinoa or what's that one, barley, and rice as well, I suppose. I don't really like rice that much, so that's the only reason I don't really cook with it. If it's egg fried rice from the Chinese, then I love it, but I don't really eat it that much. So, oh, it smells nice already. So yeah, I'm just going to cook the onion and garlic, and then once that's, I'll just cook it for a couple of minutes, and then I'll add in my peppers and stuff. So yeah, you can use, I'm using the veg that I like best, which is always peppers and onions. The mixed beans that I've got, there's actually also, I think there's some sweet corn in there, there's some kidney beans, those like long green beans, I think they're called. I think there might even be some bits of pepper in there as well. So you can buy all these tins of mixed, that one is beans in water. I've also got a tin of beans in the cupboard that's in like a vinaigrette, but I didn't use those because I didn't really want to have it tasting kind of vinegary. You can, the reason I'm using all fresh veg, well, it's partly because I need to use it up, but it's also because I'm going to freeze most of these because I'll make far too much for me, so I'll freeze most of them. What you do for freezing them is to cook them all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm going to cook all this together. Once I've shaped them into the burgers, they have to then go into the fridge for about half an hour to chill them, and I'm not so professional that I've got a batch in there already to show you. But I'll show you what they look like before they're cooked, and then I'll post pictures of them finished on my social media. But once I've chilled them for half an hour, then I'll bring them out and I'll cook them in the frying pan in a bit of, and I'm using olive oil. You don't have to use olive oil, you can use any oil really. I'll cook them all, and then the ones that I'm not using, I'll just wrap them up in tin foil and I'll stick them in the, I'll let them cool down obviously. I'll put them in the freezer, and then whenever I want to use them, I'll just take them out, defrost them. Now they might sort of, they sometimes fall apart a little bit when you're cooking them. So I've got these little frying pans for, you know, like a single egg. So I just cook it in one of those, because then if it falls apart, at least it doesn't go everywhere. Obviously, if you're cooking more than one at a time, I'll turn this down a bit. It was quite a high temp. Great if you're cooking one at a time. If you're not, you could maybe cook them from frozen, but I've never, I don't think I've tried that. You could always cook them in the oven as well. But the first cooking that you do with them is done in the frying pan. So what I'm going to do now is to add in my other raw veg, but I'm going to pause you just now because it's probably going to get quite loud because there's quite a lot of water in that's come out of the mixed peppers. Okay, I've probably been cooking my raw ingredients for like 5 minutes-ish, maybe a bit longer. I actually blended up my red and yellow peppers so that I could get them as small as possible, because I realised when I chopped them they were still quite big. So I blended them quite a lot, and then I chopped up the green ones quite small but not as small. You're supposed to put the mixture in the blender, like 3/4 of it into the blender, so you can shape it. There might be a possibility of shaping them without doing that, but we'll wait and see. So I'm going to add in my beans now. So I've sieved them a lot more, and loads of liquid came out. I thought I'd taken all the liquid out of them, but I've got loads in this little bowl, so I'm glad I did that. Otherwise this would have just been like a bean stew. So I'm basically just sort of, I'm not really cooking these because they're already cooked. It's a kind of a bean salad, so you know it's definitely cooked, and the whole thing's all going to get cooked again anyway. It's more of just combining it. Oh, I better turn that off. I've got my heat very high, but it's because there's so much liquid came out of my peppers because I blended them. Normally that doesn't happen. So that mixture's almost, there's hardly any oil in here. Tons of veg, and it's mostly been steamed. And you are doing a little bit of frying, you know, to cook them at the end, to sort of seal them up, but it's not too unhealthy. I suppose it probably depends how much cheese you add. So that's the beans. I'm going to add in my barley now, which I've actually had in the fridge since yesterday, because I was cooking some for soup and I thought I'll just cook loads and then I'll use it. So I'm just breaking that up because it sort of sticks together a bit. If you're going to use something like barley or anything like rice or anything, you don't want it to keep cooking after you've cooked it. So it's like same with pasta. If you know you're not going to be using it straight away, or if it's going into a salad, as soon as you drain it, you need to run cold water over it, and then that stops it from cooking anymore. So that's fairly well mixed in. So the next thing is all my spices and herbs, which I probably should have put in a bit sooner. Never mind. So again, you can add in whatever you want here really. I'm not very good at knowing what to add in. So the last time I made this, I would just add, I would use herbs that I've used for Italians like oregano, basil, what's the other one, marjoram or whatever, and then I've maybe put in sun-dried tomatoes and stuff and not used beans necessarily, so it was more of like an Italian, I mean this, I suppose beans are, you know, in Italian things as well. So the last thing I'm going to add in, oh well, the last two things are, so it's half a cup of dry base normally, but I'm making quite a lot of the mixture, so I'll put in, well, I'll definitely put in half a cup, and then also my seeds. So again, that's about another half a cup, although I might not put in quite so much because I put in quite a lot of barley. I'll probably need more breadcrumbs though for sure. You could put any seeds in. I've used sesame seeds because I've got loads. You could use sunflower, pumpkin, what are the black ones? Poppy seeds. I've got poppy seeds as well, but obviously I keep them for my cakes. So I'm just going to keep mixing this up, and I'll pause you just now until I get to a point where I can start shaping them. Okay, so once I've mixed everything up, so I've put about a quarter of the mixture into this bowl here, and what I'm going to do is just quickly blend up. I've put the other 3/4 into the food processor, and I'm just going to give it a quick whiz. If I switch it on, oh no, it is on. Now, that wasn't much, I'll give it a little bit more. Okay, let me see, another couple of seconds. Just have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks like it's going to be shapeable. So I'm going to take this out of here and add it into that bowl, and I'll come back to you when I've done that. So I have mixed together everything. Once I blended some of the mixture up, I've tasted it, I've added in a bit more salt, I added a bit more chilli powder because I like a bit of a kick. The other thing I am going to do is just add a little bit more pepper. Never ever forget to salt and pepper, otherwise it just tastes... Oh, and I forgot I've added cheese, which will come as no surprise to anybody who knows me. Up until the point of adding cheese, I think this is pretty much vegan. So obviously if you're vegan, you can still use it. So that's it. What I've done is I gave it quite a good mix, because actually the mixture was still quite warm and I don't want to burn my hands when I start doing it. The other thing is that I've always got a basin full of soapy water, so that when I'm cooking anything I'm always washing my hands, partly because I don't like having food and partly because of obviously hygiene reasons. And I also have a clean tea towel that I've only used for drying my hands. Okay, so I'm just going to start shaping these. I hate having food on my hands, but it's okay, I'll cope. So I'm just shaping them into like a burger. You could make little tiny ones or like normal sized ones, or I'm going to make them quite big, because actually for me, having this either with or without a roll and some salad or whatever is, when I'm trying to be healthy, is enough for a meal. These are quite massive actually, compared to the last ones, but that's okay. The other thing I was going to say is that I've made these once with, I think it was like chopped spinach, possibly that I'd had in the freezer, or maybe I chopped it, I can't remember. And it made them like green, which doesn't bother me, but obviously if you're, some people don't want their food to be green. So, and also there's a lot of water in spinach, so if you're going to use that, you need to make sure that you've got rid of all the water. Okay, so last little bit. So I'm just going to add this on to one of the other ones. So these are just really messy, like I'm not bothered about how they look. I'm always more bothered about how things taste, which is why my cakes never look particularly pretty, but they generally taste nice. Okay. Ugh. If you don't like having food on your hands like me, you definitely need to have that basin basin full of hot soapy water, or this is not very environmentally friendly, but you could wear you know, latex gloves or whatever. I do sometimes use those when I'm preparing some things, but it's more to like when I'm doing squeezing lemons or something and I've got cuts on my hands, but I'll try and use them for lots of different things all at once. So I'm just going to wash these and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, hopefully they won't all slide off. So that's what they look like now. They're pretty big, so the large kind of baps that you get in some shops, that would be the right size for these. So what I'm going to do is just put them in the fridge like this. You could cover them if you want, but I'm not that fussed. I'm just going to